Hey, how are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Oh, brilliant. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Your camera looks a lot better than mine.
I think it's probably because I'm in the kitchen at the moment and I have light coming in. So that's probably why.
Oh, yeah, no, I've got loads of light here, but anyway, we can see each other. That's the main thing.
Are they sea bass I'm looking at behind you?
They are. They are, yeah. The
Oh, they look fantastic.
Yeah, I've been working. I worked through a selection of pencil drawings. Initially, I did about 7 or 8. I've got them dotted around the room, but that last one on top took me 15 hours.
Oh, wow. No, I can see
Mm,
an awful lot of work has gone into them. They look fantastic.
thank you. Yeah.
So I suppose like I found you on Facebook. I saw loads of these fantastic pictures of you holding these huge fish up, sea bass, mullet, everything. And I thought, God, I've got to contact this guy. And maybe you could tell us some things how you catch these fish. I'm a freshwater angler and I haven't a clue about bass fishing, but I'm really kind of interested because what's happening in our rivers every year now, we're getting really dry summers, and salmon fishermen like me, we're kind of looking for other options. So we have a lot of coastline down here, and I'd love to explore it. But I'd love to know more about yourself, and how you got into bass fishing.
Yeah.
When did you
So,
start?
where do I start? Yeah, I mean, I moved to West Cork in 2004. Um, I was actually a hardcore windsurfer at the time. If you go back further than that, my life's always been really connected to the sea and being around the sea. I joined the Royal Navy at the age of 17 and traveled the world on an aircraft carrier. Um, so I've lived on an estuary. I didn't always do, I wasn't always using the estuary until windsurfing came along, but I just seemed to be inexorably linked to it. So when, as the body got older and windsurfing was taking a bit too much of a toll on the body, it started to overlap with looking for something new. I also had my father-in-law visiting me every summer, who was an old salmon angler.
Okay, yeah.
And so I thought, well, maybe this is something we can do together. And we started traveling the coast, and not too much success. And bit by bit, I built my knowledge. I had some help in the beginning. And then, when I discovered what at the time were very new techniques and lures and tackle that was really just coming onto the scene, then things really took off for me.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so that's kind of where it all started, Simon. Yeah.
And did you get help from a guide to get you started, to kind of give you
Yeah, I
pointers?
did a workshop.
Yeah.
I did a workshop with one of the most experienced anglers in the country at the time. And yeah, I'd already put in a lot of time. I'd fished straight through 2 winters with real basic equipment. No success whatsoever, but I just loved being out there.
Yeah.
Um, I was learning the coast, and then, to be given that kind of gift, if you like, of that, that latest knowledge, to have that experience kind of shared with me, but also be brought right up to date with the equipment and tackle, then that just launched
Yeah.
things off.
That's brilliant. Yeah. And tell me about your guiding. Like you take people out. Is it one-to-one guiding you do?
Yeah, so that was kind of a natural expression of the summers that I spent with my father-in-law. I think we all sort of guide friends and family, don't we? We take
Yeah.
them out to the river or the lake or whatever and try and share our knowledge with them as best we can.
Yeah.
But I had a contact. So I did. I was fishing with my father-in-law for about 5 summers, and then I had a contact from a young lad living up in Limerick asking me a lot of questions, and I'd also had a kind of a bit of a dream in the back of my mind that maybe I could guide one day. Um, so we were going back and forth, and the questions are getting more complicated. And I said, "Well, come down and I'll show you." And he said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, come down." And I thought, well, look, this is
Brilliant.
a chance to test, can I put it across to a complete stranger in the real world environment? And long story short, we went out, we had an incredible time. We caught fish. He caught his first bass, obviously his biggest bass.
Magic.
Um,
Yeah.
got some incredible photos. They're up there on Facebook. And So the following year, I started to make a bit more of a plan to just gently test the market, but it was always to offer the service to the guy that's down here on holiday, probably with his family, just wants to go out and do something for a few hours, and I can provide the whole service. So yes, it's one-to-one. I can provide all the equipment, probably quite a lot of the clothing, and it's very minimal impact on the fishery, Simon. That was very important to me.
Okay.
I can't be bringing half a dozen internet savvy bass anglers with me to the limited number of spots that I have, because it won't last very long, you know.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, so I literally went out and I leafleted the local hotels, and to be honest, not much has changed. That's still what I do, and you know, and thankfully it's still viable, and I enjoy hugely the one-to-one time with people. I think things always get a bit diluted, don't they, when you get into a group? But if you spend
Absolutely, yeah,
time with people one-to-one, you know, it's just fascinating. The people I've met from all walks of life, it's just been so rewarding, and I hope I can continue doing it for a good while.
well, I think it's really fantastic, the fact that you have one-to-one service, because there's not a lot of people who actually do that. Like, you could take a group of people out and you won't get the whole learning experience. When it's one-to-one, you can really pass on your knowledge one-to-one to that person.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. Like,
yeah, I mean, commercially it's a disaster, but I just wouldn't do it any other way. Especially, I mean, I'm taking people into environments and situations that are, you know, they're relatively dangerous, and you know, if I'm on someone's shoulder, I can reduce those risks to an absolute minimum. And no, we have some incredible shared experiences, and as I say, I look forward to doing it for as long as I can.
yeah, no, it looks amazing. And what type of kayaks do you have? Like, I haven't a clue about kayak fishing and all that. What kind of advice would you give to future anglers who want to buy a kayak? You know, what should they
Yeah, I was
start
very fortunate that I seemed to stumble upon the ideal kayak with the very first purchase. I wish I could say that about everything rods, reels. I'd have saved a fortune, but partly due to good advice and a bit of luck, I think I found a kayak that just suits me perfectly. So much so that
Brilliant.
I added the second kayak and a trailer, and I just have a pair of the same kayaks. They're about the only thing I never think about upgrading. Everything else, I'm always looking for the next thing. Always looking, you know, could this work better for me? Could this give me more options? But not so with a kayak. So I've ended up with Triumph Perception 13.
Okay.
And with kayaks, in simple terms, and I wouldn't claim to be an expert on kayaks, but in simple terms, there's a trade-off between stability, which you'd have a very short, wide kayak, and speed and tracking, for which you'd have a very long, narrow kayak. So what I have is a really good compromise of the two, and it's a really good stable fishing platform. I can honestly say, in the 4 years I've been out on the water, and that's a lot of time on the water, I haven't come remotely close to capsizing.
Okay.
I know I'm tempting fate there, but
well, you might go for a swim yet. You never know. Maybe a Christmas swim or something.
yeah. Well, I don't mind the swim. It's the equipment getting wet that I really prefer to avoid. But
oh God, yeah, of course, yeah. And you're carrying a lot of equipment on the kayak as well, like fishing rods. You've got about 3 fishing rods and all this other gear that you have. So yeah. So you probably go out in calmer weather, don't you? When it's kind of more flat cam.
Absolutely, and we've been blessed this autumn, including today. I'm looking out the window now, looking for any movement on the trees. We've had such a calm autumn. It's been a godsend. And when you get those in any form of fishing, and you'll know this, when you get those long periods of stable conditions, you know, it gives you a chance, whether they're good conditions or bad, it gives you a chance to keep going out and building on that knowledge, you know. And again, like having the time to be able to do that repeatedly, it's worth its weight in gold, because you know, if you've only got the chance to go once a fortnight, it has to be Sunday afternoon. You just have to take what's there. and it's just not so easy to build up a picture, you know. So
Well, I mean, it's fishing as well, isn't it? It's all a learning curve. You know, every fishing trip, you're learning something new, and it's a lifelong experience. I find that now with
exactly,
salmon and trout fishing, you're constantly learning, constantly
exactly.
bringing something back. And the longer you do it, the more knowledge you build up, you know, and experience. And that's what I just love about fishing. You know,
Yeah,
it just never
yeah.
bores me, you know, and
No.
it's really great. Tell me about the weather conditions. Like, are there certain weather conditions that are really good for sea bass, or how does it go with them?
Big subject. I mean, classically, you know, if you can get a nice onshore breeze, a bit of movement in the water, you know, that coincides with, you know, a good set of tides for wherever you're fishing, and that can mean a lot of different things as well. But I suppose the general conditions you'd be looking for is like a nice purring southwesterly with a big set of tides, and then critically being in the right place at the right time. And that's obviously a very inexact science, but that goes back to experience and putting the time in and trying to build up a picture of where they are and when, you know.
And it's probably easier for the fact that you have a sea kayak, that you can actually get to spots that you couldn't normally get to on a beach when you're beach casting for bass. And bass move
Yeah,
around a lot,
exactly.
I think, don't they?
Yeah, exactly, Simon. Also covering a lot of ground, you know. I mean, you know, I was thinking yesterday, certainly some parts of the classic sort of bass coastline, say, for example, the Copper Coast down in Waterford, you know, you can only access 5 or 10% of that on foot. And as angling pressure increases, and I'm sure we're going to talk more about this, that's exactly where they're not going to be. Those
Yeah.
areas you can get to on foot. So, you know, it's a bit of a no-brainer as the fishery develops and becomes tougher. It just gives you access to those areas that you wouldn't be able to get to. And yeah.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Like, you know, it's interesting. And you do a bit of night fishing as well for sea bass. Like, do you find that you get the bigger sea bass at nighttime?
Well, again, like coming back to angling pressure, Simon, you know, that has given us a real extra gear, if you like, in terms of locating fish. No, they're not necessarily bigger. They can be, but it just, you know, logically it improves our chances to be able to, you know, fool a very smart predator with our lures that, although maybe very high tech in inverted commas, they're still a pretty poor representation of the real thing. I would say as well, if you go and stand on the beach and look out at the sea and look at the space, just even the space that you can see, you know, that's a lot of water. They could be in they might be within casting range, they might not be. And I think that's quite mind-blowing for people coming from rivers and lakes to try and, you know, I've heard like really good top-level anglers on lakes and rivers, you know, it's quite mind-blowing. And
it's kind of daunting. You're kind of like they're saying, where do I start? You know, where it's all this ocean and sea, and you're like, well, I'm coming from a river perspective, and we know where the pools are. But when you're on the coast, it's like, whoa, where the hell do I start? And I suppose that's why it's so important to get a fishing guide. You know, someone like yourself who can put you in the right direction and get you started.
Well, yeah. I mean, the other thing to add on top of that is when you arrive at the coast, you've then also got like a serious set of safety hazards.
Oh yeah.
And that comes first. Like, you know, you might put yourself, and we're playing, for want of a better word, right in that zone where things change quickly. So yeah, it's just huge. It's just
especially
huge.
If you're going to be fishing off rocks, you know, you could get a rogue wave that could push you off the rocks or something like that. That has happened in the past with anglers, you know.
Of course it has, yeah. But in terms of helping people, I find now the best thing I can do is run a one-to-one workshop for people.
Yeah.
And then spend, you know, at least 4 hours with people in different environments, the open coast, the estuary, the strand, tune up their casting, look at their equipment, show them what I use, just go through as much as I can to get them on started on the right path. You know, pretty much the same thing that was done for me, you know. So that's what I find seems to work really well now. The problem with guiding is that, you know, you're expected to deliver fish, which is quite rightly so.
Yeah.
It's not the best. It's actually not the best time to learn, because as soon as you catch a fish, you're going to try and catch another one, and you're going to do the same thing in order to do that. Before you know it, 4 hours has gone. Whereas if you kind of take that pressure away and specifically go to the right locations at the right time and observe everything that's going on, go through everything else I've mentioned, that's the best thing I can do for somebody.
Yeah, no, it sounds fantastic. And of course, it would save someone a huge lot of time in trying to learn about it, whereas if they hired
I mean,
yourself,
they're still going to have to put in a hell of a lot of time
yeah.
if they want to be consistently successful. But, going back to what we said about the challenge of it, maybe that's not a bad thing,
Yeah, I know, exactly. It could be too easy then, and then it, you wouldn't really be interested if it was too easy.
Totally. I would have lost I'd have lost interest, years ago. I'd have probably lost interest at the beginning of the first season if it was guaranteed.
Yeah.
I mean, but with bass fishing, really, it needs to be a lifestyle that, you plan out when you based on tides, and then you wait to see if the weather lines up. If it's right, you go. If it's not, you don't. You go and do something else, and get the other things you need to do in your life. But when everything lines up, if you can, you go.
Yeah, it's just like us now on the river with the salmon fishing. You have a very small window of opportunity. The river's in flood, and you need to get there at a certain time. You could pin it down to like half an hour of really good fishing, and if you miss that, you're going to be really, trying to get that salmon. But it's similar to bass fishing, isn't it? Similar kind of concept.
But that's what I love about it. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're literally chasing the tides and the weather and watching it, and even if you're not doing it, you've still got that interest.
Yeah. And tell me, David, about your season this year, season 2021. How has it been for you?
Well, I've had an excellent season, but I've had all the time in the world and all the knowledge, and I've put the time in, put the work in. I'm still constantly tuning what I'm doing, and I will be, forever. So, I've had a really good season. I probably I start with mullet on the fly in around about February or March. I did really well with that. I had six really good sized fish, sort of 3, 4, 5 pound in a day.
Mullet is they're kind of renowned for being very difficult to catch, and they drive anglers nuts.
Yeah.
I've targeted them a few times now. I have been lucky, maybe 2 or 3 times getting them, but not on a consistent basis. So I'm really interested in mullet. I think they're kind of an underrated fish as well. They're incredibly strong, and they're beautiful as well. Beautiful silver color.
Absolutely, yeah. They're supposed to be the hardest fighting fish in UK Ireland salt waters. I would debate that strongly against pollock, because another one of my target species. But that's a whole other subject. But no, I have managed to get some consistency now. It's like all of it, Simon. There are patterns, and if you can tune into those patterns, then the success comes. So I started off mullet February, March, maybe April. April, I started going out into the sea, good pollock on lure and fly. I'll always try and catch them on fly if I can. There's just something sort of pure and enjoyable about it. And then June, bass. Now, last year, the spring, as you'll probably remember, was freezing cold, and even I think even by July, I think we were still a month behind. It just took so long to catch up. But June, July, August, that was bass. That was good when the conditions were right. And then that kind of merges into pollock and where we are now, which is still going strong. I'll be out this afternoon. I've had some incredible fishing over the last week. So yeah, thanks very much. I've seen, but that's not going to be the same for everybody. I'm just very blessed to live where I do and have the time, and
absolutely, you're very close to the sea and you can get to the places quickly and stuff. Now I'm just going to show our viewers there some of the pictures. I'm going to visit your Facebook page there. Is it West Cork Bass? Is it?
It is, yeah.
No, I'm going to share a screen here. I'm going to have a look at some of the pictures that you have there. It's some fantastic fishing. So I'm going to share the screen here. Can you see that? Great. The technology is fantastic, isn't it? The way we can share screens and all this type of stuff,
Oh, it's unbelievable. I think you're a bit more capable with it than I am, though.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just learning it as I go along, really. You know, I only
Yeah.
picked up Zoom there a couple of weeks ago, but let's have a look at some of these. Like, wow,
Yeah.
look at that.
Yeah.
That is
That's a
just,
shot. To be fair, Simon, that's a shot that, you know, the fish is quite close to the camera, so it makes it look, you know, makes it look a bit bigger than it is. But that was just an unusual shot where I had the light coming from behind me and shining through the lure. So I just posted that as a kind of a bit of a season closer, you know, just expressing
yeah,
my sadness that the bass had kind of gone for now. But
I
if you
know.
scroll through, you'll see some more sort of typical.
There's a nice
Yeah, that was pollock.
pollock, is it?
Yeah, it's pollock from a week or two ago. West Cork is blessed with big pollock, and people that come and visit from other parts of the country are quite blown away by it. But West Cork has always been known for big pollock.
And I see it's a barbless hook on that as well. You're using a barbless lure?
Well, that's called assist. They're assist hooks, Simon. So that's
Oh, right.
one. The other hook is in the fish, and that's a form of fishing called jigging, and in particular slow pitch jigging. In short, it's a technical metal that falls slowly through the water. But those assist hooks are the first thing to go into the fish's mouth, and I've used them for a long time now. I did a lot of it from the shore, and a bass, for example, if it takes a lure, it actually inhales a huge volume of water and sucks it in. So the first thing that goes in is the hook. But yeah, they work very well at the front end of the lure because the lure will tend to overtake itself. If you've got a treble on the back of it, it will hang up on the leader. So that never happens with that style of rigging.
Interesting. Yeah. And let's keep going down here now. So there's another one there now. That's a beauty, yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely
It's just,
and
you know,
stuff.
I'm always looking to try and get the light, and that's a beautiful, it's a beautiful photo for sure. Yeah, it's not a huge fish. It's just, you know, a moderate
Here's you
sized fish.
grappling a fish.
Yeah.
The rod is bending there, and
Yeah, and what weight of rod would you guess that is? I know it's impossible to say from the photo.
it looks like a 7-weight.
Keep going,
8-weight,
keep going.
9.
12.
Oh, jeepers. That's pretty big. It must kill your arm.
Well, it kills my heart when they break, and I've broken 2 10-weights now.
Oh, jeepers. Look at that.
Yeah. And really, Simon, it's because you can see the line's not back on the spool there. So we're hooking big pollock over the top of kelp, and we have to stop them.
Because they're going to dive down, aren't they? They're going to go straight down and try and cut you off the rocks.
Yeah, they will. They fight dirty, whereas bass don't, and they will go straight down. Now, I've broken 2 10-weights this year. One of them was my own fault through something called high sticking. The other one, I have it on GoPro. The rod was loaded correctly. The fish took its dive. I even worry about that 12-weight sometimes. Now, you know, serious fly anglers might think it's madness, but that's what works for me. So
I'll tell you something now, David. If that was a hardy fly rod, you'd be crying. You know, you'd be
exactly.
Like...
Yeah, exactly. So I'm with kayak fishing as well. It's very hard on your gear, so I'm constantly looking for the cheapest thing that does exactly what I need it to do. So I'll come down in price until I find that price point. Touch wood, I think I've got there now with my fly rods for the kayak.
Very good. So you'd recommend for anglers to get something more kind of affordable, because if you're targeting pollock, they could actually break off your rod and stuff, and it could get quite expensive.
Oh, absolutely. But don't forget as well, you know, it's very easy to capsize in a shore break or whatever, or even just have the kayak flip if you're not in it. And your rods are so exposed. Reels as well. They take a real hammering. So whereas some time ago I fished with rod and reel combination of up to €1,200 fishing from the shore for sea bass. So like a Daiwa Branzino rod at the time was about €600. I still have one here in the room. I had a Shimano Stella or Daiwa Cetate. I wouldn't dream of taking that sort of stuff out on a kayak.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, it's a very good point, actually. You know, let's have a look. So that looks like a surface lure there, a surface popper, is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's American one for striped bass. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love surface lures. If you just go back to
There.
above that, see that one there just above your cursor.
Oh, this one here?
That one.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was 74 centimeters from the shore
Wow.
this
Oh,
summer. That was my bass of the season.
and it looks like you caught it at night time as well.
I did, yeah, dusk into
Yeah.
night, yeah. Yeah.
That's a real beauty. You know, I
Yeah,
just
it is,
love, I
yeah.
love the dorsal fin on the bass as well, you know.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So if they're fresh and the fish is alert, that dorsal fin will be up. The longer they're out of the water, that fin will go down, and they kind of sort of calm down. So, you know, it's good to see if that dorsal fin up, because if you're looking at photos, you think, well, that fish is fresh, it's going to go back strongly.
Yeah.
Obviously, catch and release. I haven't kept a single bass this year. I might keep one at some point, especially if we have visitors or whatever, because there is actually a conservation value to keeping a fish if you can show it to people that would never have seen one, introduce them to the subject of the species, the challenges, the whole lot. They go away with that understanding of something they'd never have seen. So I've no problem keeping the odd fish, but as I say, I haven't kept one this year.
Okay. And if we have is that a wrasse, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful fish.
Oh, they're stunning, and they come in like three color options. You get a bright green, a bright red, possibly four actually. That's what the more natural color, but then there's a kind of a greeny brown, but massively underrated. And few fly fishermen, you can catch them under your feet. They're, you know, especially in the summer, and there's parts of the Irish coastline that are infested with them. They fight like crazy.
Really, I've seen pictures of them from a fellow angler, and he catches them an awful lot. He loves catching wrasse and the different colors that they have, and they have teeth as well. These kind of almost human teeth.
That's right. Yeah. No, hugely underrated.
So here's a mullet that we have here now. That's just a bar of silver.
It is, yeah, yeah. No, they're really cool. I've been around them since I was a young child. I used to go on a summer holiday to an estuary, a famous estuary in the UK, because that's where my father came from. And I mean, I've got photographs of me with them from the age of 9, I think. So just so your listeners may or may not be aware, we've got 3 species of mullet here. We've got thick-lipped, which is what that one was.
Okay.
They're basically vegetarian. Then we've got thin-lipped, which are a bit less common, and they will take a worm or a spinner a bit more. And then we've got golden grey, which would be more of a bait species. So people sort of lump them all together as mullet. I mean, there's other species as well offshore. There's red mullet and so on and so forth. But shore-wise, 3 species, and the ones that you see hundreds of, they will be thick lips. And if you think them as vegetarians, that will take microscopic creatures as well. That's pretty much what they're feeding on.
Yeah, no, they're absolutely incredible. I never knew that there were 3 species. That's a new one now for us. So let's have a quick look down here now. We're going to just scroll down. Oh, look at that, the tuna. Were you involved in some tuna fishing or something? Or
yes, that was 20th of September last year, and I was hugely grateful to be invited out by David Edwards of West Cork Charters on his boat Silver Dawn, and he's part of the chart tagging program. And I'd heard about it, but I really wasn't aware that we, in the early autumn, have masses of huge, wicked tuna-sized bluefin tuna just off the coast of here, 10, 15 miles offshore, maybe closer. So there's a program around Ireland where around 20 or so boats have been licensed to tag these incredible creatures. And on that particular day, we tagged and released 4 bluefin tuna of around 300-400 pounds. And we lost a bigger one, probably up around 500 pounds, just as it was getting dark.
Amazing. It must have been just amazing seeing those fish, like huge 400 or 500 pound tuna. And you wouldn't expect that on the Irish coastline at all, you know?
No, it's mind blowing. And don't forget as well, you've got whales out there, you've got dolphin. We've got world class whale watching just off the coast of here. We've got whales, multiple species of whales. We've got dolphins. We've got all the bird activity going on. There's a whole ecosystem, like a food chain going on there right in front of your eyes.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that that food chain is something that we really have to protect as anglers, you know. And I noticed that there's a lot of pair trawling going on sporadically around the place, you know, with commercial boats, and they're scooping up all this bait fry and fish, and it's really wrong because it's going to leave a hole in the whole ecosystem, isn't it? You know.
Well, unfortunately, Simon, I think there's already an enormous hole in it, and it's
Yeah.
worldwide. If you looked at my personal Facebook page, you'll see I often post videos on conservation and stuff that's going on. Sea shepherd in particular, the stuff that they're trying to combat around the world is just horrific.
Yeah,
That's a
I've
shot.
been following them.
Yeah, that's a shot from August. One evening we were out on the coast and the mackerel turned up in force, and they were hammering this bait into the rock pools, and that's actually a rock pool where the tides receded.
Incredible.
And we went back the following day, and there wasn't a single bait fish left. It's like it had never happened, and the gulls had just cleaned up whatever couldn't escape back into the sea. But the sort of things you see when you're out on the coast, I would never have predicted that. And if I hadn't been there that day, I wouldn't have seen it.
And what are they? Are they sand eel or?
No, I think they're a sprat. I know initially you would
Okay.
think they're sand eel, but I don't think they are. I think they're a sprat. They've got like a mottled color on their back. But I totally agree. Initially, you would say sand eel, but the more you look at them, you can see they're a small bait fish.
They
I
are,
might
yeah.
be
They
wrong,
look
but
closer, yeah.
don't forget as well, with the mackerel interaction, it's normally sprat, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And have you noticed that is there been a decline in mackerel on the coast, or has it come back again? I know it was kind of quiet there for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably not the best person to ask. Someone that's offshore would be best able to tell you how the mackerel stocks are. I mean, I don't target them for anything. I never, I've never had cause to fish for them. So yeah, I mean, everyone's got a different opinion on mackerel, but they're so mobile, aren't they? And the shoals do what they'll do, and the bait does what it does. And
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be best placed to answer that one. So I think
Let's have a
we've
look.
gone back about 2 years now.
There's a beauty, a nice pollock there now.
Yeah,
On the fly.
that's an early pollock on the fly. It's a clouser, black clouser. They love sort of dark. Pollock are renowned for loving dark lures and flies because they find it easy in the depth of water to see that silhouette, we think.
Lovely colours in it.
Oh, beautiful. Hugely underrated fish. I do think they are, the hardest fighting fish, certainly the dirtiest fighting fish that we have. I think they're massively underrated.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like the fact that
As
they're
well, Simon, there's still there's a lot of them around. So we need to be careful to learn our lessons of things that are less plentiful and respect pollock as well as everything else that's in the sea.
absolutely, yeah. So I'm just gonna have a look at your drawings there, David, because you do a lot of
Oh yeah,
pencil drawings that you said earlier on when we first started there.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to that website there, maideinwestcork.ie.
Yeah.
And wow, you have some fantastic art there.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've kind of come from an artistic family, and I've always done a bit, but
Yeah.
during lockdown, it just suddenly came to be a really nice thing to be doing. So I started off with the pencil drawings behind me, and that's still something that will happen. And the idea there is that I will draw a fish for a customer that they've caught from their photograph, include the lure as well and the size and the date of capture. So that's how it started, and then we moved on to these color pencil drawings, and they're a blended pencil. So that particular fish, there's probably about 8 or 10 different colors gone into it that are blended to create the shades that I'm looking for.
They look great. They're really detailed as well. I love that.
Thank you.
You know,
Yeah, it's hugely satisfying to do. So those are 8x6, which I mount. So they're a 10x8. So they go out in a hard backed envelope, yeah, they've been really popular. It's been incredible.
Yeah, I think your pricing is pretty competitive as well. That's very good. I mean, €25 for art prints, like that's
Yeah.
that's very reasonable.
There's a little bit for delivery, but and then you can either decide to leave them just mounted or get them framed. Find your own frame, get someone to frame it for you. I can frame them as well. And yeah, it's fantastic. I'm really looking forward to doing more. It's kind of like in the new year, I'm just too busy the rest of the year. My fishing season now seems to be about 9 months of the year, so it's in that total downtime that when the weather's really bad, it's a hugely enjoyable thing to do.
Absolutely, yeah. And tell me about, before we close up there on the podcast, tell me about your plans for next year. You're still going to go ahead with the guiding and any other new stuff, or
more of the same, really, Simon.
Yeah,
You
great.
know, I've really established my season, the species. As I say, I have that gap in the season, which I now fill with art. And no, don't forget as well, like my last 2 seasons have been heavily COVID affected. So I'm really not sure where the business is at. So I'm hoping, I mean, this year, everyone booked their staycations, but they were very reluctant to put any add-ons onto that because they didn't even know if they'd be able to go. So I guess then this year coming, very difficult to predict, but I guess
we don't really know what's ahead of
us.
us, do we? Like, you know, things are just kind of getting bad again with the COVID, and there's talks of lockdown again. And I think if you're a tourist, you can't really properly plan anything because you're going to be afraid I could be stuck in another country or at an airport somewhere.
Maybe. So I was thinking that, you know, well, we all thought we'd be seeing the back of COVID by now, and that next year everyone would be gagging for their foreign holidays. So, look, who knows, Simon? But you know, we'll muddle through, and you know, I'm here. So, if anyone, you know, wants to contact me when they're down here on their holidays, you know, I spend a lot of time communicating with people before we actually do a trip. In fact, I actually exchanged 52 emails with someone just organizing and planning one trip.
Oh, that's crazy, eh? Well, that's
Yeah.
good, you know. At least you got communication open with them, you know. And
Yeah. So there's a lot of there's a lot of communication goes on before we run the trip, especially with kayak fishing, because I have to do a whole briefing on safety and try and cut down the amount of time we're talking about what we're going to do when we finally get to go and do it, you know.
Tell me about how can people contact you? Have you is it a Facebook page or website?
Yeah, best thing for me, because I'm out so much, the best thing is email. westcorkbass@gmail.com is by far the best way, because then it's easier for me to exchange information back. You know what social media messaging is like. It's very instant. It's very easy to miss something, and I can't always reply instantly, but you know, my emails are still the best way, but I will respond to people in whatever way they choose to contact me.
Well, very good. Well, listen, David, thanks for coming on to the show. I really appreciate it, and sharing all this, you know, pictures with us and information. And it looks great. I'm going to have to give you a buzz there now next year and hire you maybe in the summertime, you know, maybe June or July, and try and catch my first pollock off a kayak or something.
Hopefully a big one.
All right, David.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, Simon. Take care. Bye-bye.